At the celebration dinner, my wife, Victoria, threw a fit. She demanded I hand over the $100 million project I had worked so hard to secure to her old flame, Ethan, just to help him boost his performance metrics. Instead of getting angry, I smiled. I offered Ethan the company's only promotion slot, saying with earnest gravity, "Why stop at one project? A talent like you should be the project director." For a moment, every colleague in the room stared in shock, thinking I had lost my mind. But no one knew that I held the plans for every single one of the company's projects, and our partners would only deal with me. Without me, the projects we'd painstakingly negotiated would grind to a halt, and Victoria, as Ethan's direct supervisor, would have to bear joint liability. The colossal financial losses would be enough to bankrupt them both. Chapter 1. That's enough. Sincere, you're being vicious. Ethan already told you he has a bad stomach and just came from the hospital. Yet you're still forcing him to drink. My wife, Victoria Westwood, snatched the glass from Ethan Sterling's hand and slammed it on the table before laying into me. Ethan patted Victoria's shoulder and said in a placating tone, "It's all right, Victoria. Mr. Clark didn't do it on purpose. After all, he's the man of the hour. I can't disrespect him," he continued. "It's just a few drinks. I'll take some stomach medicine when I get home." I watched Ethan's clumsy, self-directed act and felt a chill, yet Victoria defended him at every turn, blindly accusing me. Even though they had broken up years ago, Victoria had never gotten over her first love. Today was supposed to be my celebration dinner. Victoria had claimed she had to work overtime and couldn't make it. But just as my colleagues were raising their glasses to toast the $100 million deal I'd just closed, Victoria kicked open the door to our private dining room. She stormed in, her face a mask of displeasure. I was completely baffled, with no idea why she was suddenly so angry. Ethan, who followed her in, immediately began apologizing to me. He explained that he'd had a sudden stomachache on the way, and Victoria, worried, had taken him to the hospital. That was why they were late to my celebration. As he spoke, he picked up a wine glass from the table, looking as if he were marching to his doom. He whimpered that he was willing to drink 3 glasses as a penalty to make it up to me. It was only then that I understood why Victoria was so furious. She was upset that Ethan had been in the hospital while I was here, celebrating a career victory. She couldn't stand the sight of it. The atmosphere in the room turned awkward. My colleagues exchanged glances, ready for the drama. Before I could speak, Victoria cut in. "Sincere, it's not like you're short on projects," she declared. "Ethan is different. He's new to the company and needs to build his portfolio. As the department supervisor, I am ordering you to hand over the project you just secured to Ethan." It was summer, but Victoria's words were so cold they seemed to freeze the blood in my veins. I remembered when Victoria first joined this company. She said she couldn't adapt and didn't get along with her colleagues. Without a second thought, I turned down a lucrative offer overseas to join the company with her. I often worked late, helping her learn the business and teaching her how to write proposals. I even treated her colleagues to coffee and meals in her name. With my help, Victoria's professional skills improved rapidly, and her network expanded. We were both nominated for department supervisor, but only one of us could get the position. Mr. Harrison, our boss, valued my abilities and had told me in advance that the job was mine. But I didn't want to crush Victoria's confidence, so I voluntarily withdrew from the competition. That was how she became the department supervisor. But now, not only did she show zero gratitude, but she was using her position to pressure me. Ethan wasn't even qualified to work at our company. It was Victoria who, against the objections of senior staff, pulled strings to get him hired. She even became his guarantor, placing him in her department as her direct subordinate. She herself had always said that an employee's competence was what mattered most, and that she hated people causing her trouble. Yet Ethan had become the sole exception. The difference between being loved and not being loved was starkly clear. By taking this step, Victoria had finally eroded the last shred of affection between us. I nodded numbly. "Fine," I said flatly. "I'll let him have it." A flash of triumph crossed Ethan's eyes, but he feigned reluctance. "Oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm new here and don't have the experience. Everyone will probably think I'm not qualified to take over this project. I only heard Mr. Clark has a lot on his plate lately and thought I could help out." Victoria was quick to reassure him. "Ethan, don't sell yourself short. You may not have been here long, but I know you work harder than anyone, always volunteering for overtime. You'll do a great job with this project." Hearing her words, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I knew the hard work she was talking about was just Ethan staying late because he couldn't keep up with his colleagues. The man could spill coffee on someone just by handing it to them. You'd think he was the dramatic protagonist of a cheesy romance novel. Only Victoria treated him like a treasure. After comforting Ethan, she turned on me. "Sincere, what are you laughing at?" she sneered. "Don't push your luck. You're not as good as Ethan, to begin with. You should be grateful I didn't have Mr. Harrison fire you. You should learn from Ethan, instead of causing me trouble all day long." I sighed internally. Victoria seemed to have forgotten how lost she was when she first started, always trailing behind me, looking up to me. Now that I had helped her find her footing, she had the illusion she was invincible and was looking for a way to kick me to the curb. Victoria's voice droned on, full of condescending remarks. I felt nothing but irritation. Taking a deep breath, I stood up and walked toward Ethan. He flinched, raising his hands to cover his head as if expecting a blow, ready to accuse me of assaulting a colleague. It was a move he'd pulled before to gain Victoria's sympathy. But I stopped right in front of him and pulled a document from my briefcase. I held it out to him, my voice full of meaning. "This is the promotion application Mr. Harrison gave me before I left work. I haven't filled it out yet. It's yours. Why stop at one project? A talent like you should be the project director, Chapter 2. At my words, my colleagues stared, their eyes filled with disbelief. They must have thought I'd been driven mad by anger. After all, everyone knew I'd worked diligently at the company for 3 years to earn this hard-won promotion. In those 3 years, I had never taken a single day off, whether due to bad weather or illness, always remaining at my post. I personally handled every task the boss assigned me, never delegating. Ethan hesitantly lowered his hands and took the application form, a smile unconsciously spreading across his face. Victoria looked at the form in Ethan's hand, her voice suddenly dropping. "Sincere, I heard the company only had one promotion slot this time. What do you mean by this?" Strange, I could have sworn I heard a hint of displeasure in her tone. She should be happy that I was letting Ethan have such a great opportunity. Isn't this what she wanted, for Ethan to have every advantage, to have all obstacles cleared from his path? Ethan clutched the form, then reluctantly held it back out to me, feigning distress. "Mr. Clark, are you angry? Is that why you're giving the only spot to me? Please don't misunderstand. Victoria is just very career-minded, and was worried you were too tired to handle the project without making a mistake. I never meant to replace you. I can't take this." He spoke with such sincerity, but his eyes never left the form, and he was practically drooling. What a poser. I pushed his hand back, suppressing my disgust, and clapped him on the shoulder. "Why would I be angry? I see your outstanding abilities and want to give you a chance to shine." Victoria eyed me suspiciously, her gaze probing. But seeing no trace of displeasure on my face, she could only purse her lips and say, "Ethan, if he's giving it to you, just take it. You don't need to feel bad. He's doing it willingly." "We didn't force him." Ethan thanked me profusely, his smugness impossible to hide. I smiled to myself. I had the planning documents for every project in the company, and our partners only recognized me. Without me, the projects we had worked so hard on would stall and be impossible to execute. Ethan didn't know that being project director wasn't so easy. He would be in charge of every project, which meant all the responsibility would fall on his shoulders, and Victoria, as his direct supervisor, would have to bear joint liability. The enormous financial losses would bankrupt them. Seeing that I remained silent and had even given up the promotion, Victoria seemed to feel a pang of guilt. She cleared her throat and said awkwardly, "All right, Sincere. Didn't you say you always wanted me to come to your celebration dinner? Sit down and eat. I'll stay with you tonight. We can also celebrate Ethan's promotion." She tilted her chin up as if she were bestowing a great honor upon me. I almost laughed out of sheer anger. How dare she bring that up? She had ditched my dinner, using work as an excuse, when in reality she was with Ethan. She only came here to force me to give up the project. Now that she'd gotten what she wanted, she intended to hijack my party to celebrate with him, and I was the one paying for dinner. The shamelessness of wanting to freeload off everything was astounding. Just as I was about to speak, Ethan cut in. "Never mind. This is all spicy food that Mr. Clark likes. My stomach is upset. You guys go ahead and eat. I don't want to be a downer." I rolled my eyes. He had already ruined the mood the moment he walked in. Besides, Ethan didn't even have stomach problems. I'd accidentally seen that his medicine bottle was filled with vitamins. Seeing Ethan about to leave, Victoria immediately grew anxious and grabbed his arm. "Ethan, don't go. Since Sincere gave you everything, this celebration should be for you anyway. Doesn't this restaurant have bird's nest and black truffle on its menu? Order whatever you want. You need to eat well to get better. Ethan shot me an apologetic look. Sorry, Mr. Clark, about this. I waved my hand dismissively. Order whatever you want. Why are you looking at me? You're the star of the show tonight at that. Ethan perked up. He scanned a QR code with his phone, fiddled with it for a moment, and ordered a whole new spread of dishes. After we had mostly finished eating, I got up and opened the door to the private room just as a waiter was coming by with the bill. The waiter held out the receipt and asked, "Excuse me, the total is $18,800. Who will be paying?" I pointed to Ethan, who was grinning from ear to ear. "He's the man of the hour," I replied. "He's paying." With that, I walked out of the restaurant without a backward glance. Chapter 3. 10 minutes later, Victoria called. I silenced my phone, pretending not to hear it. I walked along the road, trying to clear my head and calm myself down. Without realizing it, I had wandered near my old university campus. Through the newly painted iron fence, I could see the school's athletic field. I froze for a moment, my mind drifting back to when I first met Victoria. It was during the freshman year sports meet. I was running the final leg of the relay race when there was an accident. A student from another class knocked me over. My ankle was sprained and my leg was bleeding. The pain was so intense I couldn't get up. Victoria, wearing the red vest of a sports meet volunteer, rushed over to me. "Hey, get up, I'll take you to the infirmary." The sun was scorching that day, but when Victoria bent down and offered me her hand, she cast a shadow over me. Her small frame supported me as she rushed me to the clinic without a moment's delay. As the school nurse treated my wounds, Victoria's brow was furrowed with concern. She said it must hurt terribly and that she was going to check the field security footage to hold the student who hit me responsible. While everyone else was lamenting that I had missed out on first place, she was the only one who asked if my wound hurt. My heart began to pound like a drum. Victoria asked for my contact information and reminded me to change my bandages every day. We gradually grew closer. I came from a difficult family, raised with constant criticism and pressure. Victoria was like a little sun, always shining around me. It was hard not to fall for someone so optimistic and confident. For someone who had lived in the cold for so long, warmth was irresistible. Just as I finally gathered the courage to confess my feelings to her, Ethan beat me to it. Seeing how happy she was, I could only suppress my own emotions and remain by her side as a friend. But Ethan wasn't serious about her. He was just playing around. After he found a wealthier girlfriend, he broke up with her without a second thought. Victoria was so heartbroken that she fell into a severe depression. I was the one who stayed with her, encouraging her until she slowly emerged from the darkness. After we got together, she promised me that she would only love me for the rest of her life. But when Ethan, having failed to make it in the industry, came back to her for help, Victoria lost her composure once again. Her gaze toward him was always filled with a mix of sorrow and pity. Without hesitation, she arranged a job for him, even acting as his personal guarantor. Despite how deeply Ethan had hurt her in the past, she forgave him so easily. Perhaps I should have understood then. Victoria had never let him go. Her heart was too crowded, and I had collected enough disappointment. I didn't want her anymore. Just as I was about to leave, I heard her voice from behind me. "Sincere, why didn't you answer your phone? You shameless thing, you deliberately skipped out on the bill. They were like a bad smell I couldn't get rid of. How did they find me here?" I looked at Victoria and sneered. "It's a rule in our department, whoever's celebration it is pays the bill. You made that rule yourself. What, is Ethan about to be a director and can't even afford that?" Ethan looked on the verge of tears. "Mr. Clark is right, I should be the one to pay." "Victoria, send me the bill. I'll pay you back when I get my salary." I knew he was just showing off, trying to tell me that Victoria was willing to spend money on him. After all, in all our years together, Victoria had never bought me anything, always holding to the belief that a man shouldn't spend a woman's money. Victoria grabbed Ethan's hand, her heart aching for him. "Ethan, there's no need to distinguish between you and me. You don't have to pay me back." Then, she immediately turned to me and commanded, "Sincere, it was your fault for leaving halfway through. The bill was $18,800. Round it up and transfer me $20,000 right now." I shot back angrily. "Victoria, try to use your brain, will you? You and your little lover don't distinguish between each other. What's that got to do with me? Why should I be the one to pay?" Victoria's face turned red with anger. Ethan quickly stepped in to mediate. Hey, Mr. Clark, you've really misunderstood. Victoria and I are just good friends, nothing more. Let's just go home. Victoria parked the car nearby. Let's not argue here and make a scene. Victoria threw the car keys at me, saying viciously, "For Ethan's sake, I won't deal with you out here. Just wait until we get home now, drive. And take Ethan home first." I picked up the keys from the ground, walked to the parking spot, and got into the driver's seat. Victoria, with her head held high, reached for the car door. I slammed my foot on the accelerator and sped away. Chapter 4. Victoria must be truly out of her mind. What made her think I would let her walk all over me and be their free chauffeur? In the rearview mirror, I saw the stunned expressions on their faces. Victoria waved her hand to clear the dust kicked up by the car and began to scream hysterically. As I drove away, all the noise faded into the distance. I had just gotten home and sat down when the door was kicked open. Victoria stormed in, her eyes bloodshot with rage. "Sincere, what is wrong with you today?" she yelled. Ethan chimed in, "Mr. Clark, you really went too far today. It's dark out and Victoria is a woman. How could you just leave her like that?" I chuckled. "But you were there, weren't you? You're not dead." Ethan looked even more aggrieved and rushed forward to grab my hand. "You really are angry because Victoria and I are too close. I'm just an outsider and don't want to affect your relationship. I should just go." I wanted to shake off his hand in disgust. But before I could even move, Ethan suddenly stumbled backward and fell to the floor with a thud. Victoria rushed to help him up, then pointed at me and screamed, "Sincere, you're so petty. How dare you take your anger out on Ethan?" "I want a divorce." Seeing that I didn't respond immediately, she thought I was caving again and raised her eyebrows smugly. After all, this wasn't the first time she had used divorce to threaten me. Every time we argued, she would bring it up. Back then, I loved her more than life itself, and the word divorce filled me with dread. I was terrified she would actually leave me, so I always backed down and begged for her forgiveness. But after being hurt by her so many times, hearing those two words now stirred nothing in me. In fact, I felt a sense of relief, as if a great weight had been lifted. My expression must have been grim, because Victoria thought I was hurt. She said arrogantly, "It's not that I really want a divorce. As long as you apologize to Ethan." I cut her off sharply. "Don't say another word. I agree to the divorce." Victoria's eyes widened in disbelief. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Ethan quickly interjected, "It was my fault just now. I wasn't standing steady. You can't blame Mr. Clark. Please don't get divorced because of me." Victoria looked at Ethan, clutching his bruised elbow, her heart aching even more. "Ethan, you don't have to persuade him. If he wants a divorce, then we'll get one," she snapped. "Sincere, you better think this through. You still work under me. After the divorce, don't even think about getting a single project." It was clear she was trying to suppress me, to brainwash me into thinking that everything I had was because of her. Ethan added, "Mr. Clark, don't be impulsive. Think about your future. On the way here, I spoke with the boss. The position of project director is now officially mine. Stop fighting with Victoria and just apologize." They both looked pleased, thinking they had humiliated me. Just then Victoria's phone rang. She flaunted it in my face. "Look, speak of the devil. The boss is calling me. It's probably about the payment from the project investors. Sincere, don't be jealous. I won't be giving you a cent of the commission with that." Victoria put the call on speaker. A cold voice came through the phone. "Victoria Westwood, what is wrong with your department? Where is the detailed project plan?" "The client has already withdrawn their investment. You will be responsible for paying the $5 million breach of contract fee, Chapter 5. What? A $5 million penalty? How could this happen?" Victoria was stunned, swaying on her feet. The boss roared through the phone again. "You're incompetent, a liability. Didn't you say you were handing this project over to Ethan Sterling for follow-up? You guaranteed me there would be no problems, and now this is what you give me? He's your hire, so you can both pay for it." Mr. Harrison vented his fury and added a final warning. "The other projects are about to launch soon. If there are any more problems, you can both get out of this company." Victoria wanted to say more, but he had already hung up. She shot me a venomous look. "Sincere, what's going on? Do you have the detailed project plan? Did you not hand it over to Ethan?" I threw up my hands, feigning indifference. "Victoria, that's the project director's job. What does it have to do with me? If you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen." Victoria ground her teeth and retorted unreasonably, "Sincere, you're always so meticulous with your work. I know you've already prepared these plans. I'm ordering you to hand them over right now." I let out a cold, angry laugh. Victoria, I worked my tail off to create those plans. What do they have to do with either of you? Weren't you just threatening me, saying I wouldn't get a single project? You seem to have plenty of projects, so why can't you execute a single one? My direct rebuttal left her speechless, her face flushed with rage. She pressed a hand to her chest, struggling to catch her breath. Ethan, not wanting to see his career go down in flames, was visibly anxious. Besides, he couldn't afford a $5 million penalty. He quickly bowed to me, his voice trembling with feigned remorse. Mr. Clark, it's all my fault. Victoria was just angry earlier. Please don't hold it against her. If we can get the plan to the client by tomorrow, there might still be a chance to salvage this. How can you just stand by and watch Victoria suffer without helping her? Even now, he was trying to guilt-trip me. The nerve of this guy was incredible. Did he think he could stand on some moral high ground and act like a saint? He needed to take a good look at himself. I smiled faintly and retorted, Ethan, aren't you the project director? You're the one in charge. Talk is cheap. If you're so benevolent, why don't you call the boss and take full responsibility yourself? Ethan froze, rendered speechless. After a long moment, he stammered, Of course, I'm willing to help Victoria. It's just, I don't have that kind of money. Besides, Mr. Clark, you and Victoria are husband and wife. I held up a hand to stop him, reminding him coldly, I'm sorry, you seem to have forgotten. Let's be clear, Victoria and I are already divorced. What happens to her has nothing to do with me. With that, I pulled out my phone, sent a file to the printer, and walked over to it. I grabbed a pen from the holder on my desk, quickly signed the document and slapped it down in front of Victoria. Here's the divorce agreement, hot off the press. If there are no issues, sign it quickly. Don't waste my time. Chapter 6. Victoria stared at the divorce agreement in front of her, blinking several times as if she couldn't read the words. A moment later, she shot up as if her tail had been stepped on, glaring at me with uncontrollable rage. She snatched the agreement, tore it to shreds, and screamed, Sincere, you were the one who wouldn't leave me alone, the one who begged me to marry you, and now, when there's trouble, you want to abandon me? I'm telling you, you can't divorce me without my consent. I looked at her, unfazed, and said calmly, I was blind back then. I didn't know who you really were. Besides, you're being contradictory. Wasn't it you who wanted the divorce? I'm just giving you what you want. I kicked at the shredded paper on the floor. Since you won't cooperate, we'll just go through the legal process. My lawyer will be in touch. Victoria was about to say something else, but Ethan grabbed her hand. Victoria, we can deal with your issues with Mr. Clark later, he said urgently. Right now we need to solve the problem with the project plans. There are backup records of the initial proposals for each project. We just need to add the detailed strategies and specific steps. Victoria, now with no time for anything else, gripped Ethan's hand like a lifeline. Ethan, she pleaded, I'm counting on you now. We can't delay this for a second. Let's get back to the office. Before leaving, she turned back to glare at me, making sure to get in one last threat. Sincere, I have to work overtime on Saturday, and it's all your fault. Don't get too cocky. We'll see about this. I paid her words no mind. Victoria was far too naive. All these years at the company, I had relied entirely on my own efforts. In every negotiation, I gave my all and performed exceptionally. I had mastered the subtleties of the professional world, which allowed me to build a strong network in the business community. So, with or without Victoria, it made no difference to me. On the contrary, now that I was no longer working for her, life at the company was about to get much more difficult for her. I sat down at my computer and got to work. Career was everything, the rest was just noise. After organizing my files, I felt a sense of relief and prepared for bed. Sleeping alone in a big bed with no one to bother me was pure bliss. The next morning, before I was even fully awake, I was jolted by a frantic knocking at the door. I opened it irritably to find Victoria and Ethan standing there looking smug. The moment I opened the door, they shamelessly barged into the house. Victoria plopped down on the sofa as if she owned the place. Sincere, you've got some nerve. Changing the passcode to the house, you made me and Ethan wait outside for 15 whole minutes. I could understand her frustration. She was likely feeling the drastic shift in our dynamic. Before, whether we were going to a movie or out to eat, I was always the one who waited. As for the door code, it had always been her birthday. Now that we were done, why would I keep it and make myself miserable? I crossed my arms, looking down at her. I rolled my eyes and said bluntly, What's it to me? I didn't invite you over. Chapter 7. Victoria shot me a disdainful look and said triumphantly, "Forget it, I won't stoop to your level. This is as far as you'll ever get in life anyway." Unlike Ethan, who is hardworking and brilliant, he's already solved the whole issue with the plans. He's my lucky star. Ethan puffed out his chest, feigning modesty. "It was just a few plans. A small thing like that is no problem for me. Why would I let you worry about it, Victoria? You just sit back and wait for the money to roll in." Victoria beamed, her smile so wide a fly could have flown into her mouth. She cleared her throat, pulled a document from her shoulder bag, and tossed it on the table. "Well, we don't need you anymore, so let's part amicably," she said, looking at me. "Sincere from now on at the company." She trailed off with a malicious smile. The unspoken threat was clear. She was going to make my life at work a living hell. I picked up the divorce agreement, glanced through it, and gave a faint nod. "Since you've delivered the papers, there's no need for you to sit here anymore. You're in the way. Don't let the door hit you on the way out." Victoria leaped from the sofa, seething. She nodded to herself and said through clenched teeth, "Fine, Sincere, since we're divorced, you can get out of my house right now." I frowned, annoyed. "Excuse me, I think you're mistaken. This is my house." It was true. The deed was in my name. I had paid for the house and all our living expenses because I didn't want to burden Victoria with financial pressure. Knowing how hard she worked, Victoria's lips tightened in embarrassment. You what?" I said impatiently. "If you don't leave now, I'm calling the police for trespassing." Victoria, ever the master of manipulation, said matter-of-factly, "I'm not leaving. I still have my things here. I'm staying until I've packed everything." Her words infuriated me. Her intention was so obvious she wanted to freeload in my house. Fortunately, I was prepared. Without another word, I walked to the storage closet, kicked out several suitcases, opened the front door, and threw them all outside. Then I turned to Victoria with a serene smile. "Please take your trash and get out of my house. Goodbye and good riddance." Before she could even react, I had shut the door, leaving both her and Ethan outside. Through the security camera, I watched her fuming on my doorstep. After venting for a moment, she had no choice but to crouch down and pick up her scattered belongings. She was wearing high heels and struggled to drag several suitcases, stumbling like a person just learning to walk. It was almost comical. Ethan hurried over to help her with two of the bags. They had apparently taken a taxi here and now couldn't free up a hand to call for another one. They could only haul their pile of things toward the main road, looking like a pair of destitute refugees. The next evening, there was a major business banquet. Mr. Harrison had already told me to use the opportunity to secure the partnership with Company A. I had been in private talks with their CEO, Mr. Lawrence Peterson, for days, and our ideas for the project were perfectly aligned. I was confident about the banquet. All I needed to do was sign the contract. I walked into the venue full of self-assurance, only to run into Victoria and Ethan right at the entrance. Chapter 8. Victoria held a glass of champagne, swirling it nonchalantly. "Well, Sincere, what a coincidence," she said. "It's after work hours. What are you doing here?" Ethan adjusted his cuffs, deliberately flashing a platinum ring. "It is a coincidence. Victoria and I were just picking out wedding rings after work. If we'd known you were coming around the same time, we could have come together." Victoria took Ethan's hand, her voice dripping with pride as she addressed me. "Sincere, Ethan and I are getting engaged next month. You'll wish us well, won't you?" She watched me, a faint, knowing smile on her lips. I knew that look all too well. It was the same one she wore back when Ethan and I used to compete for her affection. Was she still playing these childish games? But I no longer cared about her. I paid no attention to her bragging. I took a glass of wine from a passing waiter and clinked it against Ethan's. "Congratulations," I said magnanimously. "You two are finally back together." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "I'm glad you understand, Sincere. Now you can get your feelings in check and stop following me around. I wouldn't want Ethan to get the wrong idea." It finally dawned on me. She thought I was jealous. She thought I regretted everything and had followed her to the banquet because I couldn't let her go. I frowned, annoyed by her self-centered delusions. "Mr. Harrison sent me here," I stated calmly. "I'm here to secure an investment partnership with Mr. Peterson from Company A." Victoria burst out laughing as if I'd told the funniest joke in the world. She bent over, clutching her stomach. "Sincere, you're hilarious," she mocked. "I haven't heard anything about the boss giving you that assignment. And Company A? You're really reaching, aren't you? Besides, even if we were to pursue a partnership, it would be handled by Ethan, the project director." Her arrogance grew. She draped her arm elegantly over Ethan's shoulder and boasted, "Our Ethan is a rare business prodigy. He came up with detailed plans for 7 projects in a single night. This banquet is for him to meet with the heads of all 7 partner companies to discuss the next phase." Just as she was gloating, the 7 company heads she mentioned walked over. They surrounded Victoria and Ethan, their faces livid. "You swore to us that your plans were foolproof," one of them raged. "So how did the very first phase of the project already run into major problems? Our company has been in business for years, and we've never lost this much money." I knew Ethan was completely incompetent. Of course, the plans he produced were utter garbage. His degree was in liberal arts. He had never touched anything technical. The proposals looked impressive at a glance, but a closer look revealed they were full of empty, impractical jargon. Back at the office, he often couldn't even understand basic professional terminology. Only someone as clueless as Victoria would think she had hired a genius and trust him with everything. Stupidity, it turned out, was contagious. Another partner added furiously, "If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation tonight, you can expect to hear from our lawyers." As the situation escalated, Mr. Harrison rushed to the scene. To appease the other companies, he made a swift decision. "I am truly sorry. Please, everyone, calm down," he announced. "I have decided that Victoria Westwood and Ethan Sterling, who were responsible for the project's failure, will bear the full responsibility. All of your company's losses will be compensated by those 2 Chapter 9. Victoria broke down. The blow was too much for her to handle. She staggered a few steps and then collapsed onto the floor. Ethan just stood there, stunned and clueless. The partners were still furious, vowing never to work with our company again. Mr. Harrison was sweating bullets. I raised my voice, making sure all the partners in the room could hear me. "Everyone, please listen to me. Don't panic. I have a way to remedy your losses. I've been organizing the data for these projects, and I have detailed, actionable plans for each one. I ask that you review my proposals before making any final decisions." With that, I distributed the corresponding project plans to each of the company heads. After reviewing them, all 7 partners nodded in approval, praising the high feasibility of my plans. If implemented quickly, they could mitigate the losses in time. Mr. Harrison, standing beside me, let out a sigh of relief and gave me a grateful look. He patted my shoulder and whispered, "Sincere, you really saved the company this time." I smiled gently. I was just doing my job. Just then, a hearty voice sounded from behind us, humble, polite, and not arrogant. "Your company has found a rare talent." Mr. Harrison and I turned around to see Mr. Peterson from Company A. It turned out he had arrived just in time to witness me take control of the situation. Mr. Peterson walked over and warmly shook hands with both of us. "My apologies," he said. "The traffic was terrible, so I'm a bit late." I quickly composed myself and said professionally, "Mr. Peterson, regarding the project proposal I mentioned to you, I've made a few adjustments based on the current situation. Please take a look, and if—" Mr. Peterson waved his hand with a smile. "No need for all that trouble," he said decisively. "Let's just sign the contract. I trust your work. Let's go up to the VIP room to talk. I'm very impressed with your abilities and am interested in establishing a long-term partnership with your company." I nodded, overjoyed. "Of course, Mr. Peterson. This way, please." After finishing our meeting and seeing Mr. Peterson and Mr. Harrison off, I was about to hail a cab home when I noticed that Victoria and Ethan were still outside the venue, surrounded by the 7 partners who were demanding to know when they would be compensated for their losses. I chuckled to myself. Even if they sold everything they owned, they wouldn't be able to pay back that much money. From a distance, I saw Ethan's eyes roll back before he collapsed to the ground with a loud thud. It had only been a short while, but his acting skills had clearly improved. He was willing to take a hard fall to escape responsibility. With such a flair for the dramatic, it was a shame he wasn't in Hollywood. But their problems were no longer my concern. My cab arrived and I got in and went straight home. The next day at work, Mr. Harrison praised me in front of the entire company. In light of Sincere's consistently excellent performance and his success in salvaging the company's losses yesterday, I have decided to officially promote him to general manager. He will be responsible for co-managing all company affairs with me. Chapter 10. At his words, my colleagues erupted in applause and congratulated me. Mr. Harrison waved his hand cheerfully. To celebrate Sincere's promotion, we're having a dinner tonight. It's my treat, and everyone is invited. The boss never threw a company-wide dinner for a promotion. I knew he was doing it to back me up, to send a clear message to everyone that my position in the company was now unshakable. Victoria and Ethan kept their heads down, silently packing their things at their desks. As Victoria passed me with a cardboard box in her arms, she couldn't resist one last spiteful remark. "Sincere, don't think you're so great just because you're a general manager. True love is revealed in times of hardship, and I've finally seen clearly that Ethan is the only one who truly cares for me. Once I find a new job, I'll settle the score with you." Little did she know, her words would come back to haunt her less than a day later. That evening, after dinner with my colleagues, I was leaving the restaurant when Victoria rushed up to me. She grabbed my hand tightly, her eyes swollen from crying. "Sincere, I'm begging you, please help me," she sobbed. "Ethan scammed me. He took all my money and disappeared. I can't find him anywhere. I was wrong about everything before, and I'm so sorry. I realize now that you were the one I loved all along." I coldly shook her off. "Victoria, didn't you just say this morning that Ethan was the one who was true to you? Stop bothering me. I'm not going to help you pay off your debts. We're divorced. Have some dignity, will you?" Hearing this, Victoria cried even harder. "But I really know I was wrong, and I've already apologized. Can't you just give me one more chance?" I sighed in exasperation. Victoria was always like this, thinking the whole world revolved around her. But no one waits around forever after their heart has been broken time and time again. I shook my head and scoffed. "Victoria, stop daydreaming. If apologies fixed everything, what would we need the police for?" I turned and walked away, ignoring her completely. From that day on, however, Victoria began a relentless campaign to win me back. She waited for me outside the office building every day, preparing all 3 of my meals. She sent me flowers. I ignored everything she did and accepted nothing. When she grew desperate and tried to force them into my hands, the food and flowers invariably ended up in the trash can. Whether her feelings were genuine or not, I would never go back to her. Her behavior had become utterly exhausting. Fortunately, Mr. Harrison opened a new branch in South City, and I immediately requested a transfer. On the day I was leaving for the airport, Victoria somehow found out. She cried and begged me not to go, but my mind was made up. Without giving her a second glance, I turned and walked away. I managed the new branch well, and I was finally free from Victoria's harassment. 3 months later, the boss called to check on the branch's business. We chatted for a bit, and it was then that I learned what had happened. Victoria, unable to find a job and buried in debt, had fallen into a severe depression. She had been secretly tracking Ethan down. When she finally found him, she killed him in a fit of rage. I heard that she had intended to turn herself in but wanted to see me in South City one last time. On the way, she was hit by a truck that had lost control and was killed instantly. On the phone, the boss sighed at the tragedy. I offered a few polite words and then hung up. I was calmer than I expected to be. After all, Victoria and I had long since become strangers. Later, my career in South City flourished, and I met a girl who loved me with all her heart.